If you're dealing with knee pain and stiffness, don't start with strengthening first. So this video is a continuation of the previous one I did where I worked through a knee stiffness issue. It was a little bit stiff, it was irritated, and so I showed what I worked through. So if you haven't watched that video, please go back and watch that one. It's the previous one that I did. In this video, what I'm gonna do is, this is like a continuation. So today it's the next day after, and my knee's feeling better. It's definitely feeling a lot better than it was yesterday, but there's still some stiffness. It's still limiting my movement a little bit. And so I'm gonna walk through a little bit more of the process that I use. So I'm gonna go through kind of the beginning to the end. So we're gonna do some sensory stimulation, then we're gonna do some mobility work, and then I'm gonna do some corrective strategies. And then I'm just gonna basically build it back up into a foundational movement. Basically this one is squatting because that's the one that's giving me the most problems. So that's my goal, is to show you my process and framework for how I go about working through this type of an issue. Now this is not a one size fits all corrective that's gonna fix all knee stiffness issues. My intention with this is just to provide a framework and a process that you can use. Kind of take from it what you will, try it out for yourself and see if it helps. And you can use this process, it's the same type of process, although the exercises and the movements are different if you're dealing with something like a shoulder or a lower back issue. So take from it what you will. So before I go through any kind of exercises, mobility work, whatever, correctives, I want to do an assessment to see how I'm moving on this day. And so this is how I work through with myself or with a client. I want to see, basically what I can do, what I'm limited at, like what am I having trouble with doing, where is my movement at right now. So this, my squatting down is kind of the issue that's bugging me today. For example, this morning, I was feeding my dog Oliver, and so his food is at the bottom of a cabinet, so I have to squat like all the way down in a very deep knee bend to get under the cabinet to scoop his food out. His bowl with his water and his food, I've got to put it down on like his little tray, so it's very down very low to the ground. So that is kind of what I'm dealing with here. So I'm going to assess a squat. That's a movement that mimics that, and just kind of see where I'm at. So when I'm going down, like, I can get down into a full squat. Like, this is no problem to get down there, but you can see how I'm moving is, for me, slow. I'm very tentative on it. So I've got full range mobility, no problem there. There's no pain there, but there's a lot of tension, and I can feel my body kind of guarding, especially on this side when I go down. So that movement for me normally would be happening a lot smoother and a lot quicker than I'm showing there. So this is what I'm going to be working with. Now, when I do something, I assess the movement, I'm going to do like an exercise, and then I will reassess that movement just to see if there's any improvement. What we're looking for in a reassessment is to see if you have pain, maybe there's less pain than there was before. So that would be like a green light that the movement, the exercise, the drill that you did is working, and that's something you want to keep doing. Maybe it's not that. It could be an improvement in movement. So if my movement was a little more limited, and then I do the drill or the exercise, and then I come back and I've got more movement, then that's also a green light, right? That's working well. Sometimes it could be just less stiffness. So for me, if I feel less stiff, less guarded, I'm getting up and down easier, or I'm able to move quicker with the same range of motion that I have. Those are all like green lights. So these are things that we're looking for. If you get no change, then it's not good or bad. It's just that what you're doing didn't make any improvement, didn't make anything worse, so I would find something else to do. So I'm not going to run through every single example. It would take way too long. So this is just kind of to give you, again, a framework and an idea of kind of how I work through the process. So first thing I'm going to do before I do any kind of movement, I'm not going to do any strengthening work, because if I don't have my mobility, or if it doesn't feel normal, and then I go to strengthen, the muscles, I'm going to strengthen the limited mobility that I have. It's like taking a limited movement that's restricted and strengthening that restriction. So you don't want to be doing, that's why you don't do strengthening before you kind of build up the and clean up the movement foundations. So I want to clean that up. I want to clear any weak links in the whole chain. That could be like compensation strategies, changing the way that I move from like normal, what normal optimum movement would be. So I want to make sure that all those things are cleaned up as much as possible and that I'm restoring good movement quality before I start to focus on building strength and strengthening a movement. So first thing we're going to do is some sensory input. And so why I want to do that first, why don't we just jump in and do like some stretching or some exercises first? And there's a reason why. What we're trying to do with sensory input is give the brain information that it could then use to make a better decision regarding movement. Give it information. So better input, better information to the brain, better output, better movement. That's what we're looking at. So there's 3 ways that we can do this. The first is to, if you have a foam roll, you can grab a foam roll. It's easy to do. So I'm going to show a foam roll technique. Basically, there's a lot of muscles around the leg. Where I feel the stiffness more is kind of toward the front and like around in this area around the knee. This has to do more with the quadriceps because this is where the tendon inserts down into here, into the tibial tuberosity. So, and it comes right up over the knee here. So basically I'm gonna foam roll the quad because that's where I wanna decrease tension. We're foam rolling in order to try to release tension in the muscle. We're not breaking up adhesions. We're not increasing the length of a muscle or anything like that. We're just trying to decrease tension because more tension equals less mobility and more guarding is what's happening. So the foam roller, I want the foam roll to go between my knee and my hip. I want it right on the muscle. I don't want it on any bony area of the body. I'm going to start with it right in the middle, so I want it right in there when I lay on it. And then I'll kind of gauge where I feel like I need it most. Now, the quadriceps can be a very sensitive area. So a lot of people have a lot of sensitivity, and so you want to be careful and regulate and control how much pressure you're putting on there. We're not looking for a high intensity, deep kind of tissue strategy here. We're not looking for a lot of pressure and to make it feel painful or uncomfortable. If you're getting discomfort, it's too much. On a scale of 0 to 10, we're looking at no more than a 4 out of 10. I don't even like to have a 4. I'm more like maybe trying to get maybe a 3 in there. All right, so that's about all we need. So in order to do that, I put forearms down on the ground, place the foam roll, and I'm scooting it over so it's not under both legs. It's over here. I'm going to use this leg to help create another anchor point as well. So I've got my leg down here, I've got my arms here, and I've got my leg to anchor here. Now I can control how much pressure I put on the foam roll. And then I'm using my left leg, I'm using my toes to push off of. I'm only moving a couple inches forward and backwards, so I keep it localized to one specific area of the quadriceps. And then I'll move it around. So I might try a little bit closer to the knee, and just kind of key point here to keep in mind. A lot of times when you move the foam roll closer to the knee, it's more sensitive. This can be a very highly sensitive area. So some indicators, red flags you want to look out for that mean that you're going too hard is if you are tensing up, if you're holding your breath, if you're grimacing, and if you are like guarding your movement. Those are all signs that what you're doing is too much. You're putting too much pressure on it. You're going too hard. So you want to lighten it up. All right, so I'll just do that for about 1 minute, and then I'll retest and see how the movement looks. Okay, so let's see how it looks. And so I'm here, maybe a little better. Not a ton. I'm still a little slow and tentative, but it feels a little bit smoother. It feels a little bit better. So I would say that this did help. It did make an improvement using a foam roller. It's something that I can use. Now, another way I could go about this, and I'll show you another drill, which is a manual sensory stimulation. And this one, it can work a little bit faster. It can work a little bit better at getting input through to the brain. It's the same kind of idea, just a different method we use. So you can use like a cloth, or sometimes I just use my knuckles, like right here. You don't want to use your fingertips. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of rub around here, all around the quad. I'm going to go around the side of the knee. I'm going to go down toward the front. I'm going to go in the back by the calf where it inserts up behind the knee. I'm going to go up in the hamstrings, kind of same thing. And I'm just going to do this for about 10 seconds. Get some good input to give my brain information and kind of basically wake up the system saying, hey, this is where I want to move. And here we go. So we're going to reassess this movement. And now that's definitely easier. That feels a lot smoother. That feels a lot more like normal movement for me, a lot closer. I don't feel as stiff on the left side. So earlier I was feeling that stiffness, probably like I would feel like right around here and then all the way down. Now I don't feel it until right at the bottom, is just kind of a hint of it. So I'm definitely moving better. So this, if I had to choose between the two, I could use either one of these movements, of these drills. But this one, the sensory stimulation, for me, it's a little more effective. So I would probably stick with this drill and use this as my main one. And then maybe foam rolling, I might do that on an off day, where maybe like after I do a lower body workout, if my muscles are a little stiff, I work my legs or whatever, and then I can use something like that just to help kind of, pump all the waste out of the muscle and get it circulating back in the bloodstream and flush it out. So this can still be a useful tool for me. Okay, so we did that one. That was our sensory stimulation. The third one that you can use, by the way, I mentioned there was 3. You can use something like a massage gun. It's the same purpose. So as I did with the sensory stim with my hands, you can do it with a massage gun. It's a little different. Instead of like rubbing and having that kind of pressure, it's more of like a vibrating kind of pressure that it creates. Okay, so yesterday I showed this single leg rock back that I did, and I did that with a thoracic rotation. I'm not going to do that today because I feel like my rotation's actually stuck pretty well from yesterday. So if I was going to do this one, I'm just going to try and feel out how the movement is. So yesterday I was really tentative on this a bit, and I'm definitely moving better into this one today. So the movement feels really good. And one thing I can do, I'll just do this for a little bit, and I'll do about 30 seconds of rocking here, and I'm just pushing myself into as much movement as I can get. It's an oscillation movement. I'm not doing a static hold at this point. I'm just trying to explore and see what kind of range of motion I have, particularly at the knee. It's also mobilizing my hip and my ankle. And the adductor, the inner thigh muscles on this side, right? So there's a lot that's going on in here. So what I'm feeling for is how much movement do I have at the knee? How does it feel? It should feel pretty much pain-free and feel good. It shouldn't be aggravating anything, and it doesn't. So I can do that, and then what I would do is I would just hold that position as far back as I can hold for about another 15 seconds, just to kind of to solidify that new range of motion that I have. So a lot of times when we're moving, the movement will start to improve as you go through it. So you'll find that where you start, your mobility starts to open up, you gain maybe a little bit more. So I would just want to hold that to send information to the brain, like, this is where I want to be able to move. I want to access this much range of motion when I'm actually moving. So that's one thing we could do. Other things we could do, if this one didn't work as well, and let's see how it does. When I get back up and I squat back down, is there any difference here? So you can see I'm coming down and up. Still feels a little stiff, but nowhere near the same level of restriction. It feels evenly on both legs. But what I could do is I could do some other things. So I have some other kind of mobility drills that I can do. So for example, if I wanted to unlock movement at my ankle, because sometimes a restriction in ankle movement will place extra stress on the knee because the knee has to compensate for what the ankle's not doing. So I can test that out, and I could just do a little bit of kind of this kind of movement here, and I would just do about 10 repetitions or so. I'm not forcing anything. I'm not trying to stretch into this. I am just trying to get my ankle to move without pulling my body or my leg out. Just working through the ankle, seeing if I can do it. I might do just some circles about 5 in one way, 4 to 5, and then I'll do them in the other way. And then I'll just kind of retest it and see, you know, did that help? That feels really good. Now you can see my speed on my squat is really picking up. So I definitely like the ankle mobility drill. I like the rock back. Either one works. The ankle mobility drill works a little bit quicker. So I'm probably gonna keep that one in there as well. Just kind of depends. All right, so now the third thing I'm gonna do is work through a corrective strategy. So once we've got some good movement happening now, things are feeling better, what I wanna do is make sure I'm cleaning up any kind of weak links within my movement system. Compensation strategies can be happening. So one thing that I will do here for today is I will just take a simple kind of bird dog, we call it, where my hands are under my shoulders, my knees are under my hips, and then what I'm doing is I'm going to take my arm, I'm gonna cock it back like I'm getting ready to throw a punch. So I cock it back and I extend out with a fist. And I'm just looking at keeping my arm about as high as my ear. I don't want it down here. I don't want to get it way up here. So I'm just going to cock and I'm going to push. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine that with my leg on the opposite side. So I'm just showing this same side because it's on the video easier. I'm going to drag my foot onto the floor. I'm going to tense my glute up. And then I'm going to lift it a little bit up. I'm not looking to elevate it up to there and compensate through my back. So it's just a drag on the floor, tighten that glute up, lift and hold. So I'm going to combine both of those, left leg, right arm. I'm going to cock back here on my right arm, extend, lift and hold, and then bring it back down. And then if I was really doing this, I might switch sides, do them on alternate sides so that both sides just get some good movement. Make sure I can get through this movement without compensating. I'm not twisting my body. I'm not shifting to one side too much. I'm not unstable. So I do about 5 repetitions on each side. That turns out good. I can retest my squat out, just kind of see what's happening there. At this point, things are feeling pretty good. So all I'm trying to do now is I'm not so much looking to improve a lot more because it's feeling really good. I'm looking more for now, I want to just progressively build things back up to where I get to a point where now I've got movement, so now I can start to build some strength in there. I'm going to start to activate muscles that support that movement and make it stronger. This is a key thing, why I say don't strengthen first. This is something you want to build into. It's important to regain access to mobility as much as you can, getting through kind of any kind of limits or restrictions that you might have. And that's super important because if you're not moving well and you're limited in your movement and you try and strengthen a muscle, you are going to strengthen that limit. So you're going to reinforce limited mobility, and then it's going to be even harder to get out of it, and it can make things worse rather than better. So I look at, I want to restore as much mobility, access to as much mobility as I can first. I want to clean up any weak links in the movement chain, in the movement system that I've got, any imbalances there, any compensation strategies. I want to clean those up. I want to get this movement like looking as clean and crisp and smooth as possible. And then I will start to build up into, I'm going to activate muscles and make sure that the right muscles are turning on that are going to support this movement that I'm trying to do. Then I'm going to start to build up into building strength. That's how I work it with myself or with clients that I'm working with. It is a step-by-step process. Okay, so now I'm going to do some activation work just to make sure I'm targeting the right muscles that I want to be using when I'm up in the movement. So I'm going to do a glute bridge, but I'm going to do a banded version of it. So I like this because it gives a little resistance that really helps to get the muscle switched on. So I'm just hooking it under my feet like so. And then I get the band across my legs, and then I'm going to try not to bang my head on my barbell. So I'm going to scoot forward again. And I got this thing here. And so I'm just putting it, I'm not putting it up on my lap, I'm not putting it on my knees, just right across the thighs. So then I'm going to brace elbows into the ground. You can do with palms if you want to, or fists down. The thing is to create tension And what I want to do is I want to create full body tension, because when I create and drive tension into the body, it helps the muscles produce more force, it creates more stability, and when there's more stability, there's less likelihood that joints and muscles and tendons are going to get irritated. So I've got feet flat on the ground, I'm going to drive my elbows into the ground. It's like I'm pulling them into the ground as I'm going to extend my hips up. I'm making fists, so I drive tension through. I'm not just looking for tension in my glutes and my quads. I'm looking for full body tension. So I'm going to drive my elbows in the ground like I'm pulling them in the ground. That's going to activate my lats. I'm going to squeeze and activate my chest. And then I'm making the fists. I'm going to brace my abs. I'm going to get my glutes switched on, hamstrings, and I'm driving my hips up and then back down. And I'm going to keep this tension up. And I'm going to drive through, and I would do about 8 to 10 repetitions of that, all right? So I'll save you the time on the video. I'm going to come back up, watch my head so I don't bang it on the bar. That bar's like an omen for me right now. And then I'm just going to assess. So what I did was I just switched on a lot of muscles. My body feels like it's really switching on right now. And then so when I squat now, boom, I mean, I could even take some load right now, like a goblet squat, I feel like, and really hit it good. I even can just isolate now and really put direct pressure in all, like weight bear a lot on this front leg, where before I was a lot more tentative. So you can see the difference in real time. This is real time, how it's happening. You know, I'm not having to wait for weeks or months just to get some kind of improvement in my movement. When you target the right areas of the body, when you address the right systems in the brain, you know, you can really unlock movement like that, because that's the speed that the brain and nervous system work at. It doesn't take weeks or months for this stuff to happen if you do it the right way. So this is why I'm showing this in real time, because I think sometimes I might say things about how I've had clients who unlock movement like this in one session. We do it in minutes a lot of times. I've done it myself, and I've been doing this 25 years. And I think sometimes it could sound a little bit like, yeah, right, like it's not very believable. It sounds like, you know, I'm basically full of shit. So I'm trying to show you in real time. Look at the difference that you're seeing here. There's no studio tricks here. This camera keeps rolling, so this is what we're dealing with. So now I've gotten up to this point, so now I'm gonna bring this up into standing. And then what I would do is I would just, because I'm feeling good, I'm moving good, I would grab a dumbbell and just do a loaded kind of goblet squat and see what we have. So I'm gonna load this one a little bit. And what we're gonna look for when I load is I wanna make sure that my movement does not change from what I can do with just my own body weight. So we never want, when we're trying to now get into reinforcing some strength and building some strength, I don't want to do it with limited mobility. So if I get some load on me and all of a sudden I'm not moving as far anymore and I'm compensating and I'm short on my movements and things like that, that's a no-go, that's a red flag. So I need to have the same mobility and it needs to be pain-free and feel good, the same that I did without any weight. So got a 25-pound weight in my hands, got my stance set, and then I'm just bracing again with the same tension that I had on the glute bridge. And that's why I do it down there, to practice it, get everything switched on, so when I'm standing up, I can access that same tension as I did on the ground. So when I come down now, boom, and I'm right back up, and I'm here to here. My movement feels good. It should be looking good on the camera. And yeah, I could definitely do these reps, no problem. So that's basically it right there. So from there, like if this was a training day, if I was going to do a workout, even not, what I might do just to kind of put icing on the cake, do nervous system stimulation just by adding some very light, rapid movement. So the goal is to move fast. It's not about loading things heavy or doing anything crazy. I'm not trying to be an Olympic level athlete at age 54. But what I'm trying to do is be able to get my body to move faster and react quicker because sometimes that's what happens in life. You move suddenly and unexpectedly, and you've got to react and be ready to move. It happens. If all I do is train my body to move slow and controlled, that's not real life all of the time. So it's a better way to prepare my body for the demands that I'm going to face in my everyday life. So a little bit of nervous system activation, and then I'm good to go. So that is the steps that I use to work through any kind of pain or stiffness issues. So hopefully, this sheds a little bit of light and gives you a framework for some things that you can do. If you're dealing, whether it's knee stiffness, like I said, shoulder, lower back, it's more the framework. And it's the same framework that I work through, even if it was a shoulder issue. Start from the beginning, sensory stim, and then, work through that whole process like I showed in this video. And let me know what you think. Leave a comment below. Let me know which part of this framework did you find maybe the most powerful, most interesting, or the most useful for you? Did it make a difference for you? Did it improve some things or something? Let me know what your experience was, and can't wait to hear about it.